Alright, today we're talking about FlyQuest, who make a couple interesting changes here that might push them to becoming a playoff team. Well, we'll see what we think about that today. If you like any part of this video, do consider liking me on different social media platforms, as I am trying to become a professional shoutcaster, and doing so will really help me out there. Alright, thanks. So we're getting into now the playoff teams from last year. FlyQuest, this 10-8 team, they make a decent amount of changes over here, bringing in Pobelter, bringing in... That's
Viper.
Viper, thank you. I'm like, Brain, Viper. They bring in Viper to replace Flame, who decided not to stay over here. So that's pretty, like, I think this team pretty much stays where it's at, potentially, or is fighting with one of those teams that have improved themselves a lot, like one of those bottom teams that improve themselves a lot. So maybe like they lose their playoff space, but they're still fighting for that playoff spot. I like this team, and I like Pobelter, even though like basically Team Liquid has said you were the reason we couldn't do anything internationally. But that happens to Pobelter like every year, and then he smacks NA.
I want to say FlyQuest is a team that had the greatest improvement of any LCS team when it comes to their social media. Like, this team...
I do watch a lot of their videos, too. Like, why am I watching FlyQuest videos? I don't even care.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't care about this roster. Like, I'm not a huge Wild Turtle fan.
I am,
but like, they're really good at, like, they made Wild Turtle the face of their brand, and they've really doubled down on social media and videos. And I think that's so interesting. Because I constantly was mad last year when these new rosters came in that I felt like no one was really pushing out the content side. I feel like FlyQuest did, and I don't want to go into that too much because we want to go back to the roster stuff. But I thought it was so interesting that FlyQuest has really become probably the most social media active team, or one of that I've seen, and I think that's great for them.
Yeah, and sorry, one other thing to note too is a bit of coaching change too. Robert Yip and St. Vicious out, Invert and Cop in here to help coach this team. So maybe like a difference in direction is gonna help the team out. I don't know. I actually like if they finish 10-8 again, or like 9-9, and they finish in the same spot. I think they side graded a bunch, and they seem like they're going to be there. I feel like Viper is probably a downgrade on Flame, but I don't. That's mostly just because I don't know that much about Viper. So he could prove something to me, and he could be somebody, but I just don't know him very well.
Well, I will say, so FlyQuest is interesting because they actually had planned to keep St. Vicious, and they added Cop. But after there was that incident with St. Vicious saying some things on his stream that led to him being kicked from the roster, let go, they kept Cop, and then they brought in Invert. And what's really interesting to me with this roster, and not just sort of the roster, but the organization, is I'm just kind of curious, like, what their train of thought is for this, like, the rosters. And it's not like a question mark thing, because stuff like Optic, I'm kind of like, what the heck are you doing? FlyQuest, it's like, I'm curious if this was intentional or not, and I'm not upset if it is, because they have a very huge Canadian roster, and then one of their staff is Canadian. Go Canada. But they also kept all NA residents. Aside from Santorn is an NA resident, but he's not from North America. But I'm really curious, like, if that was intentional or not, because losing Flame, it sounds like they tried to keep Flame, from what I understood, and then what happened was Flame felt like he was worth more and went out there and actually couldn't find a team because he felt he was worth more than anyone was willing to pay for him. So they brought up Viper, which is still good. And buying Pobelter is still great because Pobelter's a great resident mid laner, but it didn't look like they really attempted to go for any imports. Like I could see a world where they try to bring in import support over JJ, or they try to bring in someone like Power of Evil over Pobelter kind of thing. And I'm just kind of curious, like, if there were those conversations, or if they intentionally said we wanted to keep a resident team that we could work with long term, and maybe their goal isn't to win this split, but rather to build a long-term brand that does well. And so I'm just curious about that question mark, because like you said, I don't feel like they greatly improved in roster, but I also feel like they're still consistently in playoff.
I totally agree with you. They have this like weird dark horse potential where randomly they can be like I said, Pobelter every once in a while smacks NA, so like that could just happen, and then that combined with like Wild Turtle being like a pretty consistent 80 carry, which is pretty funny to say about Wild Turtle.
And they've played before in Immortals.
They played together before, right? So they know how to play together, and they know what's going on. And you and I, we both talk about how much we actually really like Santorin. So like this team like has this dark horse potential to surprise everybody, If like, let's just say like the teams we expect to be in the top just underperform and they just stay consistent, like they could surprise people.
And Viper's a huge carry player, so there is like, if the meta shifts that way, I feel like they have that ability to have a carry top, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah. Alright, FlyQuest, did they do enough? Do you think they did enough? Let us know in the comments below if you think it's enough. Do you think Pobelter, is he just lucky? Does he just always end up on good teams, or is he going to finally be on a bad team for once in his life? Who knows? If you missed any of the previous videos, you can check out that one there. That one's on Optic Gaming. You can also follow me on different social media platforms as well as subscribing to stuff. So all that stuff helps me. Really appreciate you watching the video to the end. See you next time.